welcome to Drink Up. Adam Smith, my co-host, is alive and he's raw and he's real this morning. And we have a special guest this morning, Sean Miller from Package. This is
Hey, good
from
morning, guys.
yeah. Good morning, Sean. From this is from Pasta de Mescal. We're going to get into it, but a little brand called G4, which I'm sure a lot of you out there have heard of that brand. So we're just super excited, Sean, to talk to you. I know you have other brands we're going to get into, but hey, welcome to Drink Up.
Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Usually, I have a glass of tequila in my hand. It's 10 a.m. I might wait. I'll wait just a little bit, but I'm excited
It's
to be
okay
here.
here if you want to have tequila. It's okay on my watch, man. So,
Well, I might. Let's see what happens.
well, welcome, welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it's. This morning we were talking. I'm like, what is PKGD, and
You
what does
sure?
it have to do with tequila and mezcal?
Well, nothing. Except now, I'll tell you, I'm very proud. There's been a whole bunch of occasions in the last year when we since we actually put packaged on the back labels of our brands, and people have said to me, and people that I respect have said to me, when I turn that around and I see a packaged stamp on the back label, I know this is a good product, and I don't concern myself at all that I'm getting something that's high quality and value, and so I'm super proud of that. So Package has come to mean that. You mentioned pasta, and Package did come from a marketing agency. We were a digital marketing agency in Chicago at Merchandise Mart, and it was our hub. And we worked in Chicago is very food centric, right? So we worked with many food brands, primarily grocery store brands. Our biggest clients were pasta, and we were doing a combination of basically the food network and digital marketing in combination that was working really well for us. And then we were doing so much digital marketing that we had created a couple of digital toolkits for social media marketing. We had a product called Smink and a product called Social Cloud Suite that helped with social marketing and brand advocacy. It was we had created a consumer brand advocacy platform for our brands. And so as we were doing that, we got into the whole Shark Tanky thing, right?
Okay.
Got into that whole startup scene, Shark Tanky thing, all
Were
that
you were
stuff.
you on were you on Shark Tank?
No, we were never, but we were in many a pitch meeting in Chicago. All those things where you stand in front of the group and you got 2 minutes to, ask for $1 million. Uh,
Were you
and we
ever in front of InvestBev? I'm just curious. Did you ever
invest
get the?
Bev. No, I don't. Well, we weren't focused on drinks at all. We
Okay.
weren't in the spirits business at all.
Oh,
And
okay.
one of these investors that was in that audience that came to know us, he had invested in a tequila brand called Tequila G4. And it turns out that he had invested, and many other people had invested, with an actual criminal when they did that. So there was an actual criminal that had the import agreement for G4 tequila. He ran around the United States and got investors to give him money to the brand. And he told them they were all going to be rich like George Clooney very
Oh,
soon,
interesting. So he took the
right?
money and ran.
Yeah, he did, and he also took two truckloads of tequila from Felipe and sold it, in all kinds of bizarre ways all over the country. So,
Wow.
when this particular investor, then his name is Ross Pangieri, this particular investor ended up with I guess he was the most defrauded, and so he ended up with the import rights. He's an investor. He's actually a construction guy.
Wow.
And so he says, I don't intend to run this company,
He
right?
was
So
buying
he
pasta from you at the time,
oh,
probably,
well,
and
he
they
just knew us because of the social media marketing things,
right.
and he knew that we were honest, and he knew we were pretty good, good marketers, and he asked us to help with that, and he actually had, this business, there's marketing and sales. He
Yeah.
actually asked some others guys to manage the selling part.
Yeah.
So we set about creating a website and learning about G4 and all these kinds of things. My partner Jeff Ernst, we've been friends since we were 12 years old, by the way,
Oh,
and
wow.
they call me right brain and they call him left brain. So if you ask Adam, you said Adam might ask some like technical questions. If there's any
Yeah.
math involved, I'm gonna plead mercy and
Yeah,
say
I'm
the
the right
the
brain guy.
left.
This too, and Adam's the left brain. That's probably describes us. Adam, would you agree? Or
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree to that.
Yeah, so if there's math involved, I'll default to, and defer to follow up later. But Jeff, I always say Jeff has just enough ego to say yes to a lot of things that we maybe shouldn't do, to be honest. But he said sure, we can market tequila, why not, right?
Yeah.
And then very quickly the sales team got fired, and justifiably so. That I thought they were doing some really bizarre things, but so they got fired very quickly. The investors came back to us and they said, "Well, can you also sell the product?" And again, Jeff is sure. We've sold lots of things. We can figure that out.
Oh wow.
So it's been about 9 years ago now, and we started by going to Google and asking who's a liquor distributor in Chicago, and trying to hit zero on the phone and trying to talk to a person and telling them that we had what we thought was the next great tequila, even though we had no idea if we had the next great tequila or not. We had no.
Did you land with Winebow from the get go? Then was that your
Well, no,
first?
we started with Cream Wine in Chicago,
Okay.
and those guys were terrific. And gratefully now we're in a national contract agreement with Winebow, and we're in a very different place. But we started with 2 pallets of tequila, delivered to Chicago, distributed by Cream Wine, and that was about 9 years ago now. So
Wow, it's really
just a
important what
real
you're
real
saying here.
quick,
By the way, sorry to interrupt, Sean.
yeah,
So we deal with a lot of start brands. Like
yeah,
we ship a pallet, and they're like, "Well, why aren't we doing 10 pallets?" And you just said you did 2 pallets 9 years ago, so you're
yeah,
not new. But you're just, I
no.
mean, G4 is really come on strong in the last couple of years, right?
For sure. And when you say, you mentioned Winebow, I can't tell you the wash of gratitude that I felt when you mentioned Winebow. And I think to
Right.
be we're in a formal national contract with Winebow, right? And we're on goal with Winebow. We're in conversations with the president and the vice president, and the plans and the goals and the schedules, and all of this coordination now, right?
Yeah.
There
You
there
weren't
was a
back then, I
time.
bet, though. It took you a long
No,
time to get there.
no, my God. I mean, and I think about this all the time when when I also talk to a new brand owner, and they're like, "Why doesn't the distributor care about me?" And I'm like, I don't mean to be rude to you, but you're not important. You don't matter, right? It's
Oh,
your job to sell the tequila for like a long time.
this is
Like,
such an important. I mean, I want to stick on this for a while. But thank you for saying that because
it,
so many people are like, I mean, we had a, I mean, I'm gonna name, but one of our clients, like, we're just gonna put you on an incentive, and he gave me like a 10 pallet incentive to get paid. I'm like, at 19.99 for something, I'm like, it ain't gonna happen. So it's funny.
Oh, I'll be, so we're quite transparent in what we do. And I used to refer to distributors as toll bridges. That was the acronym that I came up for them. And they're a toll bridge. And I'm like, damn things. Like I have to, you have a distributor get to market. I can't get across the river without one. Right. But so I pay the damn toll. And that's what I thought they were. And then there is a point though. And I'll say this to brands, there is a point if you can drive enough consumer demand and you can drive enough pods and you can drive enough opportunity for the distributor, that you start to impact their gross margin, right? And their CFO notices you,
Mhm.
as a vendor on their financials, and you start to come up in those conversations about, hey, these guys are making us money
Mhm.
now. All of a sudden, as if by magic, right? All of a sudden you become really interesting to them,
So how did
right?
you get the heavens to open up? What was the tipping point for you?
Oh
Was it?
my. I mean, we grateful, and I say gratefully, we were consumer marketers, right?
Yeah.
And we approached we approached the market with no knowledge at all, to be honest, right? Which I sometimes I think is an advantage.
Right.
I always say that I'm very grateful that Ross and those first investors, I if they had known about the liquor business, they never would have hired us, right? Because we didn't know shit. We didn't know anybody. We didn't know anything about compliance. We didn't know anything at all, right? And
Right.
on one hand, that's a great hindrance, and on the other hand, it's kind of a benefit, right?
Mhm.
Because you just go, well, how do things work around here, right? And how do I work this game? And we had been, very very focused and for a long time on marketing. And so we said, and we had a great alignment with Felipe Camarena. So G4 is owned by the family that makes it. Everything that we sell as packaged is owned by the producer. We call them producer-owned brands. But
Right.
those producers, in our case, are not interested in sales and marketing. Some families are, right? Some families become great marketing teams. These producers and the ones that we work with choose not to do that for whatever reason, right?
Okay.
They just want to make something beautiful. So Felipe makes amazing tequila, cares not about this. Like, he's completely uninterested in being a guest on your podcast. He's completely uninterested in what we put on social media yesterday. He's completely uninterested in going to BCB. Like, he just does not care, right?
Right.
So we do all of that. We do all the marketing, all the communications, all the social media, all the websites, all the PR. We do all of it. And we have since day one. And we didn't know any better. We didn't know that was somebody else's job or an agency we were supposed to, because we were an agency, right?
So you kept it all in house. This is all
Yeah,
in house.
absolutely. Still is. Always was, still is. Uh,
Love it.
and that's the way that we do it, right? And again, we don't know any different, right?
Right.
And the amazing thing, just remarkable thing, we've grown more than 1,000% in the last 3 years. We've already doubled the brand this year. We doubled it as of the end of May this year. G4 is the fastest growing brand in the United States, and it is the highest rated, according to Nielsen, independent brand,
Is that why
right?
everybody's coming out with a mezcal because of you? Because everybody is coming out of there's like mezcals. Like, 'cause everybody has a mezcal. I mean, it's
Well, I
crazy.
think everybody came out with a mezcal because mezcal was thought to be next,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay.
And tequila went crazy, and everybody said, "Well, what's next?" Well, it must be mezcal, right? And
Right.
mezcal sales are somewhere about 1% of tequila sales at this point, right?
Wow.
So it's hot, but it's also got its own issues.
Yeah.
But
Well.
we do have mezcal from Oaxaca. It's called Palomo, and I'm very proud in the Nielsen data that came out for the end of the last month. This was the fastest growing in terms of its distribution in the U.S. was the Palomo mezcal brand. So we by extension we're doing the same things, and
What's
by
great is you're
extension
showing up
we're
in
having
Nielsen. So many of
success.
these brands don't even show up in Nielsen. At least you can have the conversation, right?
Some of
Yeah,
them
for
don't
sure.
know what Nielsen is. Let's start there, Sam.
Oh, you don't.
Some
Oh,
of these brands don't know. I mean, I talked to
Uh,
ALK brands or
Sean?
not. Some of them don't know what Nielsen or IRI data is to begin with, let
Yeah, it's a
alone where they
syndicated
rank it.
data company that tracks consumer
sure.
purchases at retail,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So you can just takeaway, right? And then they actually aggregate that data. You can look at things like velocity, ACV, et cetera, like I
Yes.
was talking about. And then you look at like category growth. So you're leading the category in mezcal.
We're
What percent?
we're
What's your share of market of the mezcal category?
it's very small, right? It's a very small brand, and we're growing really
Yeah,
fast. So
yeah.
it's I think, we're G4, we just achieved a half a percentage point, which is, it doesn't sound like much, but like, wow, right? And of course, the mezcal is something similar, I guess, to that. I don't
Yeah.
know specifically. They don't break, Nielsen doesn't break mezcal from tequila. They consider it all agave spirits in the same
Hmm.
category. So it's so small that it's hard to even know. Yeah, I guess you could sort somehow to mezcal only, and do some analysis, but Excel and I are not friends, so I don't know.
I know
I
that's
don't
where
know
we
how
got.
to
I
do
mean, that's
that.
where we got Adam. Now, I know Adam's thinking about this story and everything else. Adam, you got to have a couple questions from where we began here. I
Oh, I
mean, I
do.
know that Nielsen actually excited you, which I'm not surprised.
Well, first of all, I wanna take a second. I know she's got her camera off. She's being very polite in existing in the shadows. But I want to introduce Caress, who's a longtime friend of mine. We met years ago doing radio, and so for those who are longtime listeners of Drink Up, Caress is going to be working with Sam and I and helping with some production assistance. I'll put it that way, um,
Nice.
All right.
because
So
Sam and
Sean
I.
might come back after this, the craziness he experienced this morning with us. Sean, maybe you'll come back when we have a professional actually
Right.
help you do this, right?
Sure.
So for those of you wondering who this Caress person is, she's a dear friend, and hopefully we'll be seeing her a lot more often. Sean, I mean, I find what you're doing fascinating. I think you've made several call outs. The one I'm going to pick on right now is if they had known that if they had known, I forget how you said it, but how little experience you had in the industry, they never would have asked you to do it, right?
For sure.
I fucking love those people. Uh, meaning, calling somebody, I'm like, hey, like, I'll give you an example. And Sam and I have talked about this. I get probably no fewer than 3 or 4 times a month. Someone would be like, hey, can you help me with something? And I'm like, sure. And it'll be somebody they're a client of mine or a customer I work with or somebody I know in the industry. And again, I tell people all the time, I do beverage. I do ready to drink beverage, right?
Mm,
Meaning even spirits, I'm a novice in, right? Like I know a little
mm.
bit, I know a little bit of packaging, I know a little bit of co-packing, but spirits are less ready to drink, right? And so I'll get phone calls and they'll go, hey, can you help me with something? I go, yeah, sure, what is it? And they'll be like, pickles. What? Like, why are you calling me about pickles? Well, I don't know. I just wondered if you had any ideas. I mean, I do, but they could be completely fucking wrong, right? But I'm happy to
Yeah.
help, right? And sometimes it works out. So the two questions I have, and one of them we talked about before, but I'll start with the other one. You mentioned you have a team of like 10, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how did the kind of super group assembly of the like where did they crawl out of the woodwork from? How did you compile that team?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of typically Mexican, frankly. So I had a so I mentioned Juan Pablo. So Juan Pablo Iloreaga, he's from Leon, Guanajuato, and he's a documentary filmmaker, and he was a starving artist, as many starving artists would be. And so the backstory is that Juan took a class, like a college class, in how can artists turn into a business? How can they make money? And they told him that he needed to find a niche and specialize in a niche. So he thought about what was he interested in, what could he do, where does he live, right? And he thought, well, there must be a lot of American companies and big people that are investing in the tequila industry, and I only live like an hour from the tequila space, and I like tequila, and my friends like tequila, so maybe I'll reach out to some brands. And he reached out on Instagram to G4 Tequila. And because he'd heard about the brand and he knew it was high quality and he was interested in working with brands like that, right?
No, I have to pause you. Was this still when it was criminally owned, or was this after?
No, this is with us. The
Okay,
criminally owned was that was 9 years ago now.
okay,
It's a safe bet, Adam.
Yeah. This
sure.
was only about 1 year ago.
Okay, so this is recent, real recent.
This is recent. This acceleration is recent,
Okay,
uh, and so prior to that, I was literally doing all of this stuff myself.
okay.
And I would hire freelancers and things sometimes to run cameras for me or that sort of thing. But prior to a year ago, I literally wrote every word on every social media post that was ever made. Everything, every brand, every comment, everything was all literally me. Uh, anyway, so JP wrote to G4 Tequila, and I get a lot of these requests, in inbox for people that want to be service providers and whatever. But he didn't do that. He asked questions, and he asked really thoughtful questions. And frankly, he asked questions that like bothered me because they were thoughtful. And I'm like, this guy's really asked me a thoughtful, earnest question, right? And in the scope of the WhatsApp messages and the texts and the emails and the DMs and damn it, this guy asked me like he keeps like asking me these really careful, thoughtful questions. So I finally I answered. I sat and I thought and I answered, and to his credit, then he asked me a thoughtful reply question. He asked me
Yeah, it's
more.
funny. I get those too. I get the questions, and they do draw
Oh,
me in, by the way. So that's interesting.
yeah, he asked beautiful questions with earnest detail, right? And I'm like,
Right.
well, this is a guy who's really thoughtful and he's really thinking and he's asking great questions. And it turns out G4 was the only ants brand that replied to him, and
Huh.
that was me, right?
Is that
And
after the
then
200 that went out and you fell for the question? I'm
yeah,
kidding. I'm
yeah,
joking.
yeah, I'm the guy that hit the reply. And when I had an occasion to have a video project, I hired JP to do the video project, and he did a brilliant job. He did a fantastic job, and I loved how he did it. I'd never worked with
And this is like how many years ago? Like 9 years
this is
ago
like
when you.
1 year ago.
Oh, one
like
year ago.
one,
Okay.
just
Oh, okay.
a little bit more than 1 year ago.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, I was doing all this myself. Me and my iPhone. I mean, I'm telling you, me and my iPhone. And
Caress, do you hear what he's saying, by the way? And
dude,
Adam, by the way, because Adam never shows up here. It's just me. I can
well, it's one
relate,
of
by the
the
way.
things that I say to, I said this to a young brand owner the other day. The Areciero reached out, and he was asking me about the agency and all these things that we do, and I said, dude, no offense, but we're doing like, over 200,000 cases when I got an agency, right? When I built this agency, we sold 100,000 cases with me and my iPhone, right? Like, you don't need all that shit. You don't have
Oh
to
my
spend all
God. Did
that
everybody
money.
listen to what he just said? He did 100,000 cases with just him and his iPhone. One person.
We
It's
did.
it's amazing.
I mean, I'm just saying we did, right? And
Yeah.
we, and I mean, you're shooting 4K video with this thing,
Right.
and for $20 you can get professional microphones, and if you're, it's just not that, you can do some shit with
You
that, right? I
can.
mean, you,
These days, you
you
really can. I'm
yeah,
surprised that the collaboration between an alcohol beverage and an artist, I mean, that's
I,
not new. But when you
yeah,
find the right partner, it can
right.
open up so many different pathways.
Yeah.
And you
It
did.
did, and we, so just to fast forward to, you asked how we assembled the team. As soon as we did this project, I'm like, I gotta hire this guy. I gotta figure out how to do this. So I hired this guy to be doing things for us. And then when I say it a typical Mexican fashion, the next thing I know, his best friend is on the team, and then his sister's on the team, and then his buddy from school is on the team, and then his other buddy from school is on the team, and we're up to 10 now, and
Wow.
we've never we have two people that were hired off the street, and the other eight were all either in the family or went to school together, or we've known each other for a long time,
So
and
you're
and
telling me
they're
there's a chance my path into G4 and package is actually start sending him questions that sent you questions, and if he brings
probably
me in, I might have an opportunity.
Probably, yes, probably. If you're related somehow, and we're, but the to Juan's credit, they're all brilliant, and
Yeah.
he does a tremendous job of wrangling, wrangling this together, and we're producing something that is really, really impactful and special for all of those people that are working for us, and they're having a great time. If you know, the job of an artist or a creative is a tough one, and it's mostly tough because you're always having to sell something to make a living, and so in this case we've created an environment in which we have this whole collection of creatives that have nothing to do except be creative. They don't have to worry about where the next taco's coming from, because that's
Yeah.
coming from the US package team, and we're feeding that, an expense, platform where they have everything that they need. They don't have to worry about how to make a sale. They can only worry about being creative, and the result of that, frankly, they're all working all the time that they're awake. They're all happy to be doing it, and they're getting to go to Oaxaca, and they're getting to go to Durango, and they just got to go to Turks and Caicos, and they just, to shoot a music video, and they're having, and they're drinking tequila on the job, right? And we're and we're having a really good time, and so they're just able to just explore their creativity, and the result of that has just been a wave of more skillful marketing, more effective marketing, more creative things, more creative content, and an explosion of brand awareness for us at extremely, literally world class quality. And again, like I say, we've already doubled the size of G4 this year. We doubled it twice last year. This is just has momentum on
How are you
momentum.
meeting that demand? I mean, are you forecasting out 1,000% gross? Was this expected, unexpected?
It's a numbers
No, that
question,
was
man. He said
that
not to
was
be.
really hard. Originally, so the distillery, Felipe's distillery, is 15 years old. It was built for a certain amount of capacity, and don't ask me how many liters and all that. I'm sorry, I'm terrible at those things. But it was built. It was overbuilt at the beginning,
Right.
right? And then and again, we didn't know anything, right? So it took a while for him to find us. It took a while for us to dig out of the hole of the criminal guy. It took us a while to get, some momentum to the brand. And then, about 5 years ago, it started to roll. And 3 years ago, it just, with COVID time, it
Mm-hmm.
exploded. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not so naive to say that we weren't, what we call the additive free movement in the authentic tequila space. Well, I'm not allowed to say those words, but lightning has not struck me yet here this minute.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna ask about like, are you additive free or non-diffused? But maybe you
but
can't
we
say.
well we rode that wave like
Yeah,
G4, Fortaleza, Don Fulano, Orete, some of these
right.
brands. Like when we started, guys, when we first went to California, I remember we went to a trade tasting for distributor with G4, Fortaleza, Don Fulano, and Orete and one table because nobody gave a shit, and we none of us had enough money to have our own space, right?
Yeah,
And now, G4's in the secondary, Fortaleza is in the secondary market. G4 is doing 200,000 cases. Arete's everywhere. Don Fulano's been bought out by Gallo and is freaking
Hmm.
everywhere. But we rode hard that wave. We took every advantage of it. We rode it really, really hard, and
yeah,
we've ended up, we're the Coke or the Pepsi, with G4 of that additive free space within tequila.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's amazing.
So I
So
want to.
you're hitting it. Just go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I want to take a second and echo a point that you made, Sean, that I really enjoy, and it's something Again, I talk to a lot of the folks I work with are really small, early stage brand owners, and I call that out because they're one man bands, right?
Mhm.
They're one man bands. They're doing everything. You and your phone, and at that stage of a business, as you well know, it's obviously the default that you just wear every hat, right?
Mhm.
As
Sure.
you But I think the point that you made of letting your marketers be marketers and letting your sales team be your sales team and not trying to conflate the two,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Because nothing will, and I've seen it, and I know Sam's seen it, and you've seen it. Like if you do it long enough, you'll notice. You try to get them, you try to force a marketer into marketing for the sake of a bottom line improvement. That will ruin their day faster than anything else, right? That is,
Yeah.
I mean, that is gas, or that's water in the
Yeah,
gas tank to them, right? Like it's miserable. And
Yeah.
so even if you're doing it on your own, right, that idea or that ethos of like sales as a function, marketing is a separate function, and yes, they are supportive of one another, but they are two very separate things, right? I think
Mhm.
is a phenomenal call out. The uh, the question I want to make sure I don't miss because I truly want an education, but I'm happy to wait till the end. Is you mentioned it earlier, maybe before we got on, and you mentioned it a little bit, I think, since we've been on. What's Ricea and how is it different from tequila and mezcal? Both like price
Sure.
point, taste, use case, customer. I mean, how is it different?
Sure. Sure. Can I just real quick, just to, let
yeah.
me back a
Please,
parentheses.
please, please.
So
Yeah.
in the growth curve, so we started with Jeff and I.
Mm-hmm.
In the growth curve, when we got some traction, we added two operators, two sales professionals, operators with lots of industry experience.
Sure.
Mark Sorrell in Austin, Texas, and
Okay.
Chris Risden, who was out of LA, who's now, like everybody else, moved to Idaho. But when he came on, he was from LA, and so we added operators. So, but we had to get to a level to be able to afford and support operators, right? And those guys are full partners of our company at this point, and they were part of the explosive growth in our ability to work as a sales organization with these distributors more effectively than just Jeff and I, right? As we started. So, but what is Ricea? So Ricea, for sake of simplicity, it's like mezcal,
Okay.
but it's from the tequila region. It exists within the DO of tequila.
Okay.
There is an old tradition, like from the 1700s, of making a mezcal. In that area, they call it's the area basically around Puerto Vallarta and a
Okay.
little bit into the mountains inland from there. Small space, maybe not as big as Iowa, right? Like it's just a little
Okay.
little spot. And they have a cultural tradition of making mezcal there called raicilla, and It's unique from mezcal. It's unique from tequila. It's relatively unknown to this point, but when people ask me what's next, I believe that Raicilla is next.
Okay.
It's a beautiful product. We just had Raicilla, by the way, talk about like a traditional spirits environment. We just sent some to the Beverage Tasting Institute guys in Chicago.
Oh,
They're
cool.
well-respected tasting panel.
Sure.
The El Acabo Raicilla that we sell in the Plata, they scored at a 97. They were absolutely mind boggled by it. They're like, this that was the highest score of any agave spirit in their entire month of testing of agave spirits.
Sure.
So it's really complex and interesting. It has a little bit of funky notes to it from the fermentation and the style there. Uh, but it's very traditionally produced, like you would think of as a mezcal, probably,
Sure.
and lovely. And I think it's going to grow really quickly.
So
Well, you've
I
gotten to that point where you can start to put innovation in, right? So you've grown your core brand, which has enabled you to do some other things. Correct? Am I?
For sure. Well, and that's, with the success of G4, and I didn't answer your question, Sam. You asked about production versus the demand, right? And I didn't answer that question. There was a time in which production could not meet demand to such a level that we it began to engage in mezcal and raicilla and other tequilas, and we marched forward for a number of years where we said, once we reached the point of problematic demand, and we said, Felipe, this is what we could sell. How much can you make? And I will invest. If you can make this, I will invest in this way, in this way, in this way, and we'll step forward. And we'd say, okay. And Jeff would make plans and forecasts, and he's much better at that than me. And he'd say, Felipe, I think we can sell this much, and Felipe would say, "Okay, I will invest in this way, and we will increase demand." And to the point now, we still have almost no aged inventory at all, because that's a whole other deal, right? And lags behind in time tremendously, right? Uh, but he invested in a colossal new cava and thousands of barrels. And we're just now, literally in the last month, getting reposado again. And we should have, by the end of this year, añejo again, and then sometime in the future, extra añejo again. Now, can we meet that demand? I have no idea, but I don't know what the ceiling is. Like, I don't know what the opportunity really is. And I'm not good enough at math and forecasting to guess, but it's it's been a very calculated process of, we think we can do this. Felipe says, okay, I'll invest. And we've invested millions and millions of dollars, and Felipe has invested millions and millions of dollars. And it's an amazing thing. One of the things I mark is to go to the Posada, which is the Christmas party for the employees and the family in Mexico. And when we first went to Posada, there was like 15 people, right? And now the Posada doesn't fit anywhere in Arandas for this year, and they're going to have to rent, or they're going to build a place in the distillery, I guess, to do Posada
So you
this
can
year,
have
I
like a
think.
home place at the distillery. Do you have one
I
now? Or are you building one?
I don't have a home place. I do have the office in Leon now. I have a I am half Mexican now, by the way. I have a residency card, and I have the company in the office
Well, your
in Leon.
pronunciations of everything is spot on. By the way, just to let you know. So,
I get along okay.
yeah.
I think, well, it's, one of the great ironies in my life. Um, I was completely uninterested in school. I managed to be, I guess I'm smart and creative enough that I managed to graduate. I was only interested in art, music, and sports, frankly, but I managed to graduate. And then my dad, of course, he's a boomer and a corporate guy. He said, well, you must go to college, damn it, right? This is necessary. I'm like, "What?" Well, oh, fine, right? So I went to college, and he said, you should study international business. Okay. Don't give a
That's paying
shit,
off,
right?
right.
Don't care, couldn't care less.
right?
I managed to get a degree. It took me 9 years. Well, I got a degree in international business with a minor in Spanish.
Wait a minute, it
And
took you 9 years to get a degree? Were you just
yeah,
partying the whole time or
I
what?
well, no, I just wasn't interested. Like I'd take like whatever was the minimum requirement, right? That's what I would do. And I was making art, I was doing music, I was playing golf, I was
Smarter
doing
man. I should have stayed in for 9 years, boy, because I didn't. Lord, when I graduated, I'm like, I got to work. What is this? I was just trying to get beer money for 4 years.
yeah.
Funny.
Well, eventually I got married and I was like, oh shit, now what am I going to do? So then I hurried up and finished and tried and got a job, right? But what they anyway, that's one of the great ironies, I think, in my personal life is I have an international business degree with a Spanish minor. So the Spanish, it does, it comes fairly easy to me, and I spend I'm there every month, and I'm working on that. And of course, my whole team speaks Spanish. They all speak English as well, but I'm intermingled. I'm buried in it, right, at all the
Well,
time.
this is
So
an amazing story. I want to kind of transition a little bit. We have about 25 more minutes or so. So you kind of answered it, but I'm going to ask again.
yeah,
Um, so you got in this business simply by accident, really, really. Someone just came and said, "Hey, I
yeah,
was
just a
in a bed
client.
with this criminal. Can you help me?" A client got you in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
A little bit. What keeps you in the business? So obviously, you said it's been 9 years. I'm
Yeah.
assuming the first seven's been hard. Like, what kept you going?
It's all been hard. It's hard. Yesterday was hard. I started working yesterday at 6 in the morning. I finished at 9:30 at night.
Oh,
It was
geez.
hard. And I worked and I was and my respiration was high part of the day, right? Like I was working, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's all hard, but what the and it's just completely like to some degree it's just completely taken over my life. Like I said, I'm half Mexican now. This is my office, right? This is just completely taken over my life. So obviously I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Um, but to be honest, I found a purpose that I was not looking for. And when I talk about like the Posada party and seeing, 70 employees in the distillery plus their families and that's cool, right? And
Yeah.
when I talk about uh, these kids that are working for me in Leon, right? And they have a career path, and they just got raises on the first of this month, and they have paths of education and career paths, and they got to go to Turks and Caicos, and they got to go to Oaxaca, and I mean I mean I'm not an ego guy at all, but I can tell you that what we're doing is changing people's lives in significant ways in
So that's your
multiple
purpose, to
countries.
change people's lives in significant ways?
I don't know, but there's purpose
Sounds
there,
like it.
right?
Yeah.
And it's clear. And when we found this spot to work with these producer-owned brands, that's something else that I
Well,
can
that keeps
tell
you
you.
going because you got up at 6:30 in the morning, worked till 9:30 at night, and you said it's hard, right? But your
Yeah.
purpose is you're changing people's lives. They have a path to success. They have a path to education. They have a path to
Yes.
food. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a great purpose, Sean. I mean, I love that because
We,
and just to share with my wife just real quick is our wife is to put people to work and do right by brands, and that has
yeah.
informed everything we do.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not so eloquent. Or I haven't found
Well,
such clarity, but they, to be honest, I just thought it was just another client, first of all. And then I hoped, well, hopefully we'll sell some tequila, and then I hoped, well, maybe we'll make some money. And now we're at a whole different thing, right? And when we talk about, when I talk about the producer-owned brands, one of the things that I say there, a producer can put product in bottles and they can make some money, right? And they can employ some people and they can help their family, and that's a good business, right?
yeah.
But that's not brand value, right? And in today's world, brand value is a whole other deal, right?
Mm.
And there's people coming around, there's when I say we're the largest independent brand in the top 15 of Nielsen, right? There's not another independent brand. They're
Yeah.
all Pernod Ricard, Bacardi, Diageo, Cuervo, etc. All of
I
them,
bet you they're all
right?
calling you, by the way.
Well, they're interested. I'm not sure. I think we're quite annoying to them, to be frank, right? But they like to come by at like BCB and ask weird questions, you know,
Yeah.
like guys in suits, and they come and ask questions, right? But
Sean,
what I'm it's just what I wanted to say is that that brand value,
Yeah.
right, is not in our case, it is not for some basketball player or some, you know, some, it's for the producer. And in this case, you know, it's turning out to be generational wealth value, right? And that's or a thing I haven't resolved yet in my mind, but I know it's clear to me, and that it's a lot of money, and that if you know, it's going to change communities and families for a very, very long time, and it's all just a big freaking happy accident.
Well, I've been going down
I'm,
to Mexico for, you know, for 40 years. And actually, as a kid before that, I went down. But I mean, I'm sure it's just what you're doing with those jobs and those people in that community and helping them with what you're creating is fantastic.
it
You know, I
reminds me
mean,
of it reminds me of, I don't know if you guys listen to comedy at all, but there's a line from Mitch Hedberg that he says, "I'm sick of following my dreams. I'm just going to ask where they're going and hook up with them later." As you're talking, show, you're just like, yeah, man, I didn't plan for any of this, but I'm
that's
No.
a post this afternoon from you, Mr. Smith.
right. Um, we do have. I do want before we run out of time. Robert on LinkedIn had a question. He said, "What's the current energy levels for non-alcoholic RTD brands to create an alcohol line, and do you get any proposals?" He said, "I handle a ginger beer brand, and we had tried to get a partner for a Moscow Dark and Stormy RTD."
Whew. Um, Well, in my world, I'm hanging around with spirits producers primarily, and they're interestingly, they quite often say, "Well, should we make an RTD?"
Mhm.
Right? That's the question. Like, are we
Mhm.
missing out? Right? Everybody has
Mhm.
FOMO, right? Am I missing out because I don't have an RTD?
Sure.
And to be honest, I've generally told them that I think that market is well saturated, well represented, and not in need of new brands. And what we learned, we did mess around with an RTD as a broker one time. And what we learned, again, we don't know anything about this business. What we learned very quickly was that low proof spirits are a whole different division of the distributor. And even though the distributor had this, they were in the same building, they
Hmm.
were a whole different division.
Hmm.
And it was like well, shit, well, now we got to start all over again, right, from a relationship to distribution standpoint. So we're like, well, that's not for us,
But even
right?
if
We
you knew
can't do
Bob
that.
next door, Bob wasn't talking to Shirley, so you had to start over from square one with
Yeah, because
Shirley.
they don't,
Maybe.
right? They
Yeah.
maybe they meet up once a month, but they're not the same teams, they're not the same, you know, they're, it's
Right.
completely different organization within the building, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I
No.
think that's a really, I think for that reason alone, that's a really hard crossover. The
Yep.
high proof, low proof thing, and then the no proof thing is yet another thing,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And those are really, really hard crossovers to me.
I
Yeah.
applaud you for, even from a, and again, I know you said you're not the operational guy, but even from just a you know, an outsider looking in perspective, if you will, I applaud you for taking the thorough look at it, because I talked to, and Sam's introduced me to a couple, but I talked to um, distilleries all the time who will say, you know, hey, you know, stateside distilleries who will say, hey, we want to go from making high proof spirits to making low or no proof RTDs,
Hmm.
and sales and marketing aside, I'm like, do you guys understand the food safety and microbiology differences that come in when you don't have 40
Oh,
plus
geez,
percent ABV
that's a
killing
whole other
bacteria?
deal.
It's a whole
Yeah.
nother animal, right? So the question that stems from that, and again, I really enjoyed this story, and hearing from you. The question that stems from that for me is, okay, so you've had these happy accidents. You're very, you know, I'll call it mile deep and inch wide. Like, you're very focused on what you're doing, which I think
Mhm.
is great. You're not distracted by other things, which is phenomenal. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 2 years? Like, what is next? You know, what does the next happy accident look like?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know, right? I don't have a crystal ball, but I can say I do have a funny thing, and
Sure.
Sam, I'm not sure. You know what? I'm not sure what your calendar is, how long you've been around, but I'm 54 this month, and I have a clock running on my desk that my wife got for me, and she set it for my 55th birthday, and it's counting down, and everybody knows, right? Everybody that comes to meet with me, or they see this clock counting down to my 55th birthday, which is only now about a year away,
Oh well,
and
we're
they and
coming.
they
Send us an invitation. Want to be there?
and they just everybody's like, well, what are you going to do then? And I said, well, I said, I don't know, but I'm not going to do anything I don't want to do. That's the only thing I'm clear. I'm like, I'm not going to do a damn thing I don't want to do, right? And I'm sure of that. And you know, if that's a call I don't want to answer, or a meeting I don't want to take, or a place I don't want to go, I'm not doing it anymore. Uh,
That's
but
amazing.
we've built such a thing as a company that you know, truthfully, it could continue for a very, very long time, right? All of our producers are multi-generational businesses. I have two son-in-laws working for me now, and they're both doing great. One of them's on the accounting side, the other one's in the sales side. They're doing awesome. Our Mexican producers are thrilled that I have kids in the business, because that means they think we've increased the longevity and the likelihood that their kids will work with my kids, and they think that's cool. And I think that's cool also.
It's
So
cool.
that may be that continues for a long, long time. Or, you know, Sam, if I'm really honest, we do have, you know, these giant global multinational people. They do come and they ask questions, and I let Jeff handle all that. I don't attend those calls. I don't take those meetings. I don't.
You don't go to the cap table or anything?
I don't. I have no interest in it, and I trust Jeff. You know, I like I said, we've been friends since we were 12. I trust
Yeah.
him on this, and I say, buddy, you know, if somebody comes with some number that's just, you know, unfathomable to me, and he knows what that would mean, then you know, you come tell me about it, okay, right? But until that, I'm not. Till that, I got stuff to do, and I'm having fun doing it, and I'm not. Uh, you know, I'm not worried about
I
that.
bet it'd be tough though once that clock hits 55, or once that number that you're looking for from the people that come, you know, courting you, right? How are you going to stop working from 6 to 9:30? It's not easy because it's in your DNA.
Well,
Yeah.
it's in my DNA, but I can tell you that Amy was none too pleased with me last evening. So uh, there is you know, she would like to take a vacation, and she would like to do some things. Um, so
Totally
and I
relate, man. I'm with
and I
you.
like her a lot.
Right
So
here.
you know, I like her more than Mescal, and so there's got to be some balance there, and respect there as well. So she understands, you know, and you guys understand. You've been in business for a while. You know, sometimes you got something, right? And I feel like, okay, we got something here, and when maybe we earned the place that we're at, maybe we didn't. I don't know, but I got something here. So right, I told her, hey, honey, I'm in. Like, I got to do this right now, right? And that's when the clock showed up, right? She's like, okay, you can work every minute you're awake till this clock goes off, but then we're going to have some balance, right? You know, in our world.
Yeah, I mean,
and
good,
and
very
i
good
and I
point.
respect her for that,
Yeah,
but I also respect, you know, when there's a time, okay, let's go, let's do that right now,
Right.
right?
yeah. I mean, you're probably the Lord's talking through you to me, because a friend of mine said you got to slow down, and
Mm,
you got to, you know, you can go after all this success, right, and work from
yeah.
6 to 9:30, and I totally get it. But if you don't enjoy it, what does it mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's part, you know, that's a whole other discussion, right? You and
Yeah,
I could drink some mezcal and we could talk about that, right?
yeah,
Because
right.
you can work 12 hours in a grind, or you can work 12 hours and just enjoy the hell out of it, right? And those are both choices that you
Yeah.
have,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of that, you know, it's funny. This is a whole other discussion, but I have a personal coach that I've worked with for quite a long time. I meet with him every week for a few minutes, and he's a brilliant guy. And but when we play this game called Notice and Choose, and my job is to notice how I'm feeling about what I'm doing right now, and then choose to what he calls it, going up the ladder. Choose to go up the ladder with how I'm feeling. So
Wow.
however much I'm enjoying talking to you guys, I can notice it, and I can choose to make it an even better experience for me, right? I can choose that. and I
Well, you
can
just made it
do
a
it.
great experience for me because I'm going to be noticing and choosing today.
It's a great game. I call it a game because I like games.
Right.
You know, you could call it whatever you want, but Kellen calls it notice and choose, and it's a habit, and it's a little bit of meditation that goes on for me at all times now after quite a long time, and it doesn't really matter. You know, it could be you know, on an airplane or you know, it doesn't matter. I notice how am I feeling about what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Recognize that it is a choice. Like I put myself on this airplane, right? So I didn't have to, right? I put myself on this airplane,
Yeah.
and now how will I experience this time? And I can choose in large detail, like whether that's an enjoyable time or not, right?
That's so brilliant. So
I
let me
love it. Yeah.
transition in the last few minutes, a couple things. What do you want to relate to everybody here about your brand, about you, about package? What kind of 3 or 4 things that you want people to know about you, your brand, your company? This has been a great conversation this morning,
Thank
and I
you,
have some other questions, but this has been, I've really enjoyed it, Sean, and we want to definitely
thank
have
you,
you
sir.
on again. But what would you like to convey to everybody that's here this morning?
Well, I think you know, I think. You know, for people that are listening that are interested in agave spirits, right? That's my context. So if they're interested in agave spirits, I would just I would like them to know that, you know, we're earnestly working very hard at what we do, and so are our producers, and we have a three-legged stool of packaged, and the products are owned by the family that makes it. We just talked about that. It's world class in its quality. We just talked about that, and that means, you know, you might like one cognac better than another, but
Right.
we know that this cognac is what I'm saying is this cognac is a world class representation of what is cognac, right? So if I tell you this is a packaged product of Raicilla, you know that we earnestly believe this is a world class representation of that, of what is Raicilla, right? And lastly, this transparency thing, right? So this came sort of born of the additive free movement. We're not allowed to say those words, but that what we do is completely transparent. And even if we did have additives, we would tell you, right?
So
That's what we
truth
mean
and
by that.
labeling, everything on your label is what's in the
Yeah,
label.
and all the way through. Who
Yeah.
owns the product? What's in the product? How is the
Yeah.
product made? Who is Package Group? What do we do? How do we do it? Right? We're the ones that are speaking behind the brand. We don't hide that fact, right?
Yeah.
Everything we do is based on those three things. So Adam said, you know, we're deep and focused, and we're focused on those three things. It took us a minute to get here, but we're
Yeah.
focused on those three
The three
things.
things again, name them again. Number one.
They're producer owned, world class, and transparent.
Love it.
Hmm.
That's all right. So Adam, why don't you take the big question?
The big question. So just checking LinkedIn, make sure we didn't miss anybody before I dive into our final question. One sec. Let's see.
I feel the
No.
pressure a little bit.
So right. So no, the big question is in your, you know, in your experience, what has been the difference between success and failure?
Uh I you know, I'm gonna circle back to what we were just talking about. That it's hard to measure, but it's obvious to me that many people are having their lives positively impacted by what we're doing, and that's clear. And some of them are cortaderos in the field in Oaxaca, and some of them are own distilleries, and some of them are graphic artists, and some of them are salespeople, and some of them are bartenders, and there's a lot of people that are involved in what we do, right? But everybody, I really believe that we've achieved enough momentum, and we're doing it in the right way. I mean, I believe that we're doing it in the right way. Like I'm sure people disagree with me. I'm sure people don't like me. I'm sure that, but I believe, like I'll testify that I'm doing the best that I can, right? And being as honest as we can, and as transparent as we can. And I believe that we're doing things in the right way. And I can see that I can see the new trucks, right? I can see the new pickup trucks at the distillery, right? That the guys are driving. I can see the fruits of these things, and that's something that I did not expect. As I said, I wasn't seeking that. I didn't expect that. It's not a mission statement, but it's happening, and it's happening in the U.S. and it's happening in my own family, right? One of my son-in-laws just got a raise, because he worked really hard and he learned a bunch of shit and he's doing really good work, and so he got a raise, right? And he was thrilled, right? So I'm seeing these things happen, and I'm just very proud and very grateful. And uh, I'll tell one other story, just real quick, if I may. We just
Oh
launched
yeah,
this music video last night. I told you about that, right? We
yeah.
This guy Jeff Hodges and Turks and Caicos, and he made this song "Sipping on Some G4," and it's on YouTube now. It's on Spotify and all these things, right? Jeff has never had success as an artist. He's been a guy that's helped other artists be successful. He's 61 years old. He writes this song. He reaches out to G4. I like this song, and I decide to make it the summer anthem of G4. And Jeff, we talked last night as this thing launched, and with tears in his eyes, he's telling me how we made him feel and how respected he and how proud he is of this thing and this video. And he's so honored to have, flown from Mexico to Turks and Caicos and spent a week and made a video. He's so honored by this and so impacted by this. And the guys in his band and the guys that are around, right? And his children are there, right? This is just this is just the newest example of how what we're doing. Is Jeff going to make any money on this? I don't know. Am I going to increase sales because of the song? I don't know. But we've made a really, really, really big impact on his life and the guy in his band and his family, and then the people that produced the content, right? The people, the kids that got to go there and do that work, and they worked hard. They were on set at 6 a.m. They were on set at sunset
Yeah.
all week, right? And they worked hard, but they did good work, and it's fruitful, and I like it.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, your
Fantastic.
success obviously because you have purpose, is what you're saying. Is you have a purpose. You're helping people's lives. You gave your son-in-law a raise, but he worked hard to earn it.
He
The
did.
gentleman, the 61, he's made other people successful, but you gave him a shot at G4 to do your song, and you brought tears to his eyes, and that speaks so much about your brand, about you, and about why you do what you do, and we very much appreciate all of that.
Thank you.
With that, I'm going to maybe give you some closing comments, Sean, and then Adam, and then we'll wrap up for the day.
Well, I don't know that I can top that one. That's what I see that's happening, and I'm very grateful, and I'm
Yeah,
I'm glad that you guys reached out and that you noticed, what Package Group is doing, and
yeah,
wanted to talk to us about it, and I
yeah,
appreciate that. And the last thing I want to say, because of my job with the company, I get to do. I'm kind of the Geico Gecko of the company, right? I get to do these interviews. Um, but there's a lot of people in our company now, right? And
yeah.
there's a lot of people that work really hard and do really, really good work. And I want to say, of course, Jeff, and Jeff and Mark and Chris, but there's a lot of people, and Juan Pablo, I've mentioned several, but there's a lot of people, and they work really, really hard. And just because I get to be the Geico Gecko doesn't mean that it's all about me, right? It's really, it's about them, and my job is to do the best I can to represent them, and then of course to facilitate what we're doing, each day. So I'm super grateful to you guys, and but to all of those people, and everybody that got up early in Mexico this morning and cut some agave for us, man. All those people, I really, really, really appreciate them.
Thank you so much, Sean. Adam, you're muted.
I thought we stunned him.
Yeah, no,
I thought we actually stunned him, and he
All
was
I
right.
know.
speechless.
I always have more words. I'm actually in Chicago at a friend's house right now. I'm in Lake of the Hills, but
Nice.
so I've been feverishly Googling as we've been having this conversation of where I can find G4 and the El Cabo and all sorts of things. Um,
Nice.
so I'm gonna go find some tequila and
Oh,
mezcal
you
right
must try the Garcia. Yeah.
right? And then
I'm sure it's at Benny. You got Benny's. Go to Benny's.
For
It's
sure.
there.
oh yeah,
Benny's,
Benny's and
for sure.
Garfield's. Oh yeah, I've been doing the where to find. Oh yeah, I'm there. And then I'm gonna check out. I got the music video dialed up too. So no, this has been a
Nice.
super fun conversation. I mean, I think Sean, your outlook on things, even if accidental from the start, right, is
Clearly.
obviously proven
100%.
fruitful. And I think somebody posted the other day. I guess I'll leave it with this. Might have been the guy from Dude Wipes. I forget who it was on LinkedIn, but he posted something that I'm going to paraphrase it, but he said the hard truth of being in the consumer packaged goods industry is, for better or worse, any dumbass who stays in his words, any dumbass
Mhm.
who stays in the pocket long enough will find a way to be successful, right? And I think I'm not calling you a dumbass by any stretch. Of the
No,
imagination. What I'm saying though
He's
is
not coming back now, man. What the heck?
Right.
uh,
what I'm saying is you've stayed in the pocket, and by in the pocket, I took it to mean, and I think you would agree, like who's cared about people and what you're doing long enough, and who's let doing cool shit be your driving factor long enough that it proves successful, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's just really cool to hear stories like yours. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna
Thank you.
every time I do these, I actually replay it and I walk around and listen because I always learn something new. So thanks for
Yeah.
educating us today, Sean, because there was some really good information. And for those founders or dreamers that want to bring a brand, you heard what Sean said. He's one of the hottest brands, or the hottest brand in the category right now. He worked from 6 to 9:30 last night, and he said it's still hard. Don't forget about that. But he's in it and he has a
gotta
purpose.
be.
If you have a purpose and you know why you're doing it, or a vision where you're going, you're going to be just fine. But it does take work in this business, as you know. When you arrived, you had to pay the toll, right, to get
Yeah.
across the bridge.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love that.
absolutely.
He paid his tolls,
Uh,
many a tolls. He didn't get anything for that toll until there was a tipping point, and then he
Yeah.
built, and then now people are actually knocking on his door. But
It's
it takes
magical.
work.
It's magical when that opens. And Adam, I appreciate that comment. And I'll never tell anybody I'm like the smartest guy in the room. Like that's not me. But I'll outwork your ass. Like I will outwork your ass. Like, and that's a thing, you know?
I mean that in exactly the way you took it, because it's speaking from my own experience for years, and Sam knows this. I'll never forget. I was probably 4 years into being with BevSource, and I sat down for a dinner with some folks, and I was talking to them about operational stuff and blending and micros and all of the stuff that Jeff and I would be able to commiserate on in terms of his experience
Sure.
in spirits and mine in RTDs, right? And we're going through all this, and I get animated about it because I love what I do, really, right? As you do, as Sam does, like I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
And they asked me, and it's the best example. It's happened a few times over the years, but they said, "Where did you do your technical learning?" And I went, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, where'd you go to school?" And I was like, "Northern Iowa." And they're like, "Oh, do they have like a beverage or a microbiology program?" I'm like, "They might." And they looked at me and I was like, "What do you mean they might?" And I said, "My degree's in PR, guys. Like I picked all this shit up on the fly, right?"
Yeah.
But that's the people I enjoy working with. And I'm not saying that some of them didn't go to school for it, because some of them did. But I love asking people how they got into this industry, because it's almost never by intent, right? It's almost
Sure.
always accidental. And then they're like, "I just really like it and it's fun and it seems to come easy to me." I'm like, "I'll work with you," right?
Cool. Yeah.
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 Anyway, yeah.
Well,
Cool.
awesome. This was a great conversation. I'll ask you, all of us, to stay on the line because we have to download our content.
Oh
So
yeah.
we hang up. But I'm going to say goodbye. We're going to say goodbye to everybody out there. Thanks everybody that joined us this morning. Marshall, Robert, Alicia, Jim. I don't know if I've missed anybody, but thank you to those that have asked some questions this morning. Robert, I'm sure he's just right up the road from you. Robert's up in Michigan somewhere in your neighborhood.
Nice.
But, he moves product over the border, a lot of RTDs and CPG beverages and stuff. So I'm
Cool.
sure he'll probably reach out to you. But thanks everybody for joining us on this Saturday. Until next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye bye. And there we go.